Hello everyone and welcome to Meditate and Magnify. In this series we will be going through the Song of Songs and breaking it down verse by verse. We will be using the teachings of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, and at the end of each video we'll try to have one major idea or one major image to take with us to contemplation. So in this video we are breaking down the following verse. Therefore the maidens love you. Now, the maidens love you because of your name, because your name is all poured out, so it's a continuation. This should lead us to meditate and pray on how we need to love God, remembering that God loved us first. Christ loved us first. And his love was tender, wise, and strong. Why was it tender? Because he assumed our flesh. Why was it wise? Because he did not sin. And why was it strong? Because he suffered death for our sake. So we are invited to imitate him and to love him in this same way with tenderness, wisdom, and strength. And that's really mirroring what Moses said in the Old Testament, is to love God with all our hearts, that's tenderness, with all our soul, that is wisdom, and with all our strength, for strength. So we're going to break those down, and the first one is loving with the heart. So that's the first degree of love. That is affection, and that is in many ways loving with the flesh and loving the flesh of Jesus. And that's okay. This is the flesh of Jesus we're loving. This is how God chose to reveal himself to us in the flesh. We're not loving our own flesh, we're loving his flesh. And in many ways, this heart, this love is letting us overcome our own fleshly desire to try to be closer and closest to Jesus. That's the first level of love. Now, if you think about it, it's not perfect yet. When Jesus was telling the disciples that he needed to go back to the Father, they were saddened. And Jesus told them, if you loved me, you would be glad that I'm going to the Father. So we see the disciples here, they loved him, they clearly did. But they loved him with their flesh, not with their reason. So they were following a human emotion that was contrary to the will of God. So this leads us to the second type of love, which is loving with the soul. So that is the second degree of love. It's one step higher, and it's loving using our reason and judgment. So in many ways, we are beyond the flesh. We are being aligned with God's will. So it's one step further. And the third one is loving with the strength. So that's the last step. That's the best form of love, because then we're loving with the consistency and the rigor of the Holy Spirit. And that type of love requires a grace that comes from the Holy Spirit. Because at this point, if you're there, there is no torment, there is no hardship, there is no suffering or persecution that's going to lead you astray. That is the real spiritual love. And I think Peter gives us a great example of those three steps. If you see when Jesus first mentions his death and crucifixion, Peter doesn't want him to go to Jerusalem, and then he gets called Satan. He gets rebuked. He's like, get behind me. So what we see here is Peter clearly loving Jesus, but he was loving him with the flesh, not aligned with the will of God, actually impeding his own salvation without realizing it. So that's step one. Now, the step two is loving with the reason. When Jesus was going to go, and he mentioned he's going to go to be dead again, to be crucified, what does Peter say here? He doesn't say, I won't let you go. He says, oh, well, I'm going to go die with you. But then he denies him 3 times. So you see this love that is better. It's more aligned with the will of the Father, but it's still lacking the strength of the third degree of love, which is, again, loving God with all your strength. Only a grace of the Holy Spirit. And we see here, Peter finally gets there at the end of Acts when he gives his life away for the sake of Jesus. So those are the 3 steps. I suspect none of us, or very few of us, are at step 3. But the invitation for the meditation today is just to sit with the love of Christ. One of my favorite pictures is I imagine myself as a young boy, and I just hold him, hug him, and stay with him for the duration of the holy hour. So that's the image I invite you to for this video. And until next time, God bless you.